So a few weeks ago, I went to a performance of Lord Byron's Manfred, put on by the New Relic Theater and New York Society Library, and I really enjoyed it. It was really cool. It was like desperate. It was like talking to spirits. You were like in the mountains. So cool. I love the closet drama part of it. The actors were great. I loved the location. It was like you were in like an 1800s like English library because you kind of were. So cool. And from there, it's 2025. I always want to look up people on Wikipedia afterwards. It's a bad habit in some ways, but I always want to know the meta of like what was going on. Like, why did they write this? Like, who were they? I don't know much about him. I knew he was friends with Mary and Percy Shelley, which is cool. And he fought in the Greek War of Independence. That's crazy. His daughter was Ada Lovelace, even more insane, like an early like proto computer programmer person. So cool. My favorite section of Wikipedia, though, is usually at the very bottom. There's the sources, of course, and those are fun to read if you can. But there's this external links section, and I saw a bunch of different sources down here. So there's Project Gutenberg, they make EPUBs, definitely very cool. Internet Archive, of course, also cool. There's the one called Standard Ebooks. I never like heard of them before, so I clicked it, and it's like, okay, they make nice, like actually like nice like EPUBs. They have like covers done, they have like nice text done, they have like all like the nicety features of like modern EPUBs kind of integrated. And of course, I click on their website then. It's like, wow, they have so much cool stuff. They have Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. They have The Time Machine, like literally thousands of books. Included in those books was the Tao Te Ching, which is a book like written by Lao Tzu, like in the 6th century BC. That's crazy. It's very old, and it's kind of like the proto, like what made Taoism, Taoism in some ways. There's no one text of Taoism, but this is a cool one, and it's very like esoteric and kind of hard to read. So I went through this. It was like, okay, 25,000 words. I don't know this translation, but sure, why not? Reading ease of 67.28, average difficulty. That was so funny to me because I think about this book, and it's very hard to read in like a very serious way. Partially due to translation, partially due to there's lots of ways to just interpret it. So I pulled up this website, which I looked up a few years ago when I tried to read the Tao Te Ching. Of like, it has all of these different translations you can read at once, so you can get a little bit of a better idea of like where the author is like thinking about this too. The very first phrase, which is kind of the famous one, the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. I found all these different translations. Stephen Mitchell's a kind of famous one too. This guy Ron Hogan is like an early like, internet literary guy. If you can talk about it, it ain't Tao. Then Ursula K. Le Guin also made one, like a famous sci-fi writer. I read some of her short stories from this one. I kind of need to read more because this is a very random like selection of her books, but I did really enjoy them. And hers is the way you can go isn't the real way. The name you can say isn't the real name. I kind of enjoyed it. That was cool. I was thinking like, oh, did she like learn Chinese? Like, how did she do that? So I looked up an interview with her, and she was talking about it, and she did not learn Chinese. She just looked up a bunch of different translations. So it got me thinking about translations of like, how do you actually like translate something like this without like knowing ancient Chinese? That's crazy. You just look at a bunch of different translations and try to think about how you would write it. So cool. And the other thing about that is I was in Portugal a few years ago, and I met this guy who was a German, like kind of like meandering around Europe. He was biking around Europe, and he told me he was listening to the Tao Te Ching as he was biking around on ebook at 2 times speed. That's just funny. But I guess at the end of the day, it's just average difficulty. So maybe you can get something from that. Hope you enjoyed this video.